Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Brendan, and if you didn't know, now you know. Welcome back to the channel. And as Bitcoin continues to have a healthy recovery, I want to explain why it's not only bullish, but actually looking towards new all-time highs. So we're going to take a look at a little bit more of the macro today, looking at that 4-hour, 1-day, and even 3-day chart to show and explain just how bullish Bitcoin is at this current price level. So if that sounds interesting, make sure you guys stick around for the entire length of the video, as there will be important information discussed the entire way through. But that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into this one. Now, the first thing I want to show here is starting off on the smallest time scale and then moving our way up from that 4-hour to that 1-day to that 3-day chart, so we can kind of see what's happening from the bottom up. Now, obviously on Bitcoin, we did have this fall. We had this 4-hour death cross happening on the price chart of Bitcoin. Former support was then turning into resistance. And with this death cross happening, it looks like Bitcoin now, after we have tested this 200 EMA on this 4-hour chart as resistance several times in here, we've actually broken above both that and the 50 EMA, and we are now testing this as support, which is a really, really good thing to see. So with this happening, it's looking like Bitcoin wants to convert back to a golden cross, which could be a continuation of this macro bull trend that Bitcoin has been in. So if this converts back to a golden cross, I would imagine that this would lead the price action of Bitcoin to continue to move upwards, as the 50 and 200 EMA will now be used as support. Now, moving over to the 1-day chart, we are currently above the 1-day 50 EMA. Now, this is, my chart's a little bit cluttered, but we have talked about how this has been one of the strongest supports for Bitcoin. Just time and time again, whenever Bitcoin was going to fall, it was falling to this 50 EMA. Now, we broke this, looked like it was going to test it as resistance, and it got a little bit scary. But now that we are back above this point, Bitcoin isn't looking too bad anymore. And if we wind this up to a 3-day chart, we can see that Bitcoin has continually held the 1-day 50 EMA, or excuse me, the 3-day 50 EMA timescale as support for a very long time, going all the way back to when this bull market started, back after the corona crash of April/May of 2020, which is almost a year ago from today. So now that we are 1 year after this point, we're taking a look at Bitcoin and saying, okay, where did this start, and where has the support line been that we have held through the test of time, through this beautiful bull market of Bitcoin going from $3,000 or $4,000 up to $60,000. And this is really kind of that start of that. This is the focal point where we began. We tested this as support a number of times before really taking off to the upside. And after we did start taking off, we continually still really held this level as we were holding above this, even on our most recent crash, when Bitcoin did break below that 50 EMA on the 1-day time scale, which is which was what was happening right in this area. Even on this 3-day time scale, Bitcoin continued to hold the 3-day while it did not hold the 1-day 50 EMA. So I don't want to complicate that too much, but kind of focus on these yellow lines and these EMAs, which stands for exponential moving averages. The 50 and the 200 are two of the most common moving averages, whether you use an EMA or a weighted or whatever you're using, even a whole. It is one of the most well-known and used moving averages inside of cryptocurrency. So that's why I use these. I also think that they're some of the most respected. So with Bitcoin seeing a beautiful bounce above this 3-day 50 EMA, I think that this goes hand in hand with the argument that Bitcoin is still looking pretty bullish and actually has some big potential here. Now, zooming out, just looking at this 3-day MACD, we can see that a lot of this bearish volume that we did see down here has already started to dry up, and Bitcoin's starting to move back up towards the upside, and this could be a really good situation for Bitcoin. The bulls had their chance. It was a fairly large chance. I mean, this is the most selling volume that we've seen on the 3-day chart in, I think, the history of Bitcoin on the MACD. So at least based off of the Coinbase exchange. Now, does that mean that it was the worst fall that we've ever had? Absolutely not. So we have to, recognize what the MACD means. It's not a true representation of this was the worst Bitcoin sell-off we've ever seen. But from the MACD's standpoint, for us to be able to survive this, not really go that far down to the downside. Yeah, we saw a little bit of a nasty pullback, but the price of Bitcoin, if we correlate to this, it's a pretty healthy move for us to have that kind of a MACD sell-off and really not go anywhere. Same thing with the RSI. Yes, we did sell off. Yes, we were having these higher swing lows and lower swing highs happen in here, but this looks like we could be priming ourselves for if anything, a bounce, what would more likely be described as another run-up for possibly the next 6 months of Bitcoin. We saw how long it took for us to get into this point, and I think we topped out around January, and now we're currently in May. So if this was going to bounce, I would imagine that the bounce would be at least 2, 3, 4 months long to get us back into this overbought territory on this 3-day RSI before maybe seeing the next sell-off. So what could happen in the next couple of months? Obviously there's a lot of speculation, but the belief is that Bitcoin is going to break into this $70,000 territory as we are talking about up in here. And as we move back to the 3-day, actually I'm kind of bouncing all over the place here, but I want to talk about this volume again as well, because the volume is very important. Volume is falling off as we are bouncing very, very well. I would watch for a large move to happen towards the beginning of May for Bitcoin, because as this happens and volume falls off and we're at a very, very pinnacle point and what looks to be a turning point for Bitcoin, this doesn't tend to make sense, and usually this is a sign that as volume falls off, we are going to push into a very large move towards the beginning to mid of May. So, time will tell, but moving back to the 1-day chart, I want to go ahead and begin to wrap this up over here. We can see sort of the same idea happening. We see Bitcoin touching this almost oversold territory down here, seeing that beautiful bounce. I really think that what Bitcoin's doing is it's priming itself to have a higher macro lower swing, or higher swing low rather, down over here on these RSIs. And what that will kind of signify to me is that this will show that there are lower levels of negative momentum coming into Bitcoin upon these sell-offs, upon these bearish attempts to the downside. And that is one of the most common things that we see on the RSI. I mean, it happened up in here. This was signs that the bulls were getting weaker, consecutive lower swing highs. And what I really expect now is for the macro of that to start happening on Bitcoin to show that there are macro higher swing lows, to show that the bears are now getting weaker and that the bulls are regaining control to send Bitcoin to a higher price point. And in this case, it looks like that higher price point would be a new all-time high for Bitcoin. Again, Ethereum's already doing it. We talked about Ethereum the other day. If you guys want a link to that, just check out my last video before this one. But yeah, lots of stuff happening in the world of cryptocurrency, lots of fundamentals, lots of technicals, lots of regulations and price stuff and lawsuits, and there's just everything going on right now. So it's a crazy world. It's a beautiful world. But as we push into the beginning of May of 2021, almost a year since this run started, this could just be an extension and really kind of the dip buy that a lot of people were waiting for. Now, does this mean that it can't crash? Absolutely not. Don't take anything I say as legal, financial, or tax advice. It is not that in any way. But from the technicals of Bitcoin, I do see the argument for the bulls at this price range, and it does make sense to me. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you guys did, hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. I am very curious to hear what you guys have to say. Are you bullish on Bitcoin? Are you bearish on Bitcoin? Let me know in the comment section down below, and if you guys want to see more videos like this one, hit that subscribe button. But until next time, I will see all of you in the next video.